Maya's Dream and the White Elephant. Buddha story. According to the tradition, before Prince Siddhartha was born, Queen Maya had a special dream. In that dream, a white elephant appeared. People later understood the dream as a sign that a great child would be born. If the child remained in worldly life, he would become a great wheel-turning king. If he left home to seek truth, he would become an awakened one. It was a quiet night in Kapilavastu. The palace lamps flickered softly, and moonlight rested near the window. That night, Queen Maya fell asleep with a calm and peaceful heart. In her dream, a white light slowly came from far away. Inside that light was a white elephant. The elephant did not come with fear or force. It came gently and gracefully, as if walking on clouds. According to the tradition, the white elephant entered Queen Maya's right side. This scene has been remembered as a symbol of a sacred life coming into the world. Before the child had a name or a face, he first came to his mother as a light within a dream. When Queen Maya woke, the dream had faded, but a quiet joy remained in her heart. When the dream was told to wise interpreters, they said it was the sign of a great child to come. Queen Maya's dream was not only a sign of a great birth, it was also a gentle reminder that a beloved life cannot be held by our wishes alone. A child does not live only inside the hopes of the parents. Each life must one day find its own path. Perhaps you, too, are waiting for a new beginning. Great change does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes first as a small light in the heart. Even if you cannot hold the result yet, it is okay. If a quiet light has entered your heart, a new path may already be beginning. Buddha's birthday. The first lotus in Lumbini. One quiet morning, soft light rested on the trees of Lumbini Grove. According to the tradition, Queen Maya was traveling to her family home. When she came to this peaceful garden, she was tired from the long road, but her heart was filled with a quiet joy. A child was soon to be born. Queen Maya walked beneath the sal trees and gently held a low branch. There, it is said, the baby Buddha was born. The grove did not become loud. It became even more still, as if the earth itself was welcoming him. In the tradition, the baby Buddha took 7 steps, and with each step, a lotus flower bloomed. This scene has been remembered as a symbol of how precious one life can be. A small child had come into the world, and a light had quietly begun. Later, that child grew into Prince Siddhartha. He saw aging, sickness, and death. He looked deeply into human suffering. And at last, he awakened and became the Buddha. Buddha's birthday is not only about a light from long ago. It is also about the small light that can return to a tired heart. Even after heavy days, the heart can soften again. Tonight, may one quiet lotus bloom inside you. Asita's prophecy. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Prince Siddhartha was born, an old sage named Asita came to the palace. When he saw the child, he said that if the boy remained in worldly life, he would become a great wheel-turning king. But if he left home to seek truth, he would become an awakened one. Asita was filled with joy, yet he began to cry, because he knew he was too old to hear the teaching this child would one day give. The palace of Kapilavastu was filled with quiet happiness. After the birth of the child, people spoke of blessed signs, and the king's heart was full of hope. Then Asita came down from the mountains, walking slowly with an old body, but a clear and steady heart. The king welcomed him with respect, and the newborn prince was gently placed before him. Asita looked at the child for a long time. First, wonder appeared on his face, and then a deep joy slowly spread through him. He said, "This child is not an ordinary child. If he remains in the world, he will become a great and righteous king. But if he leaves home to seek truth, he will become a rare awakened one." The king was glad, but his heart also trembled. A great destiny was a blessing, yet it might lead the child beyond the palace, and beyond his father's hopes. Then Asita began to weep quietly as he looked at the baby. The king grew anxious and asked, "Holy One, is there something unfortunate for this child?" Asita shook his head and answered, "No, I do not weep because of the child. This child will one day awaken and teach the Dhamma. I weep because I am too old, and when that teaching is given, I will no longer be in this world to hear it." Asita's tears were not only tears of sadness. They were the tears of an old man who recognized something precious. While knowing he could not stay to receive it fully, he bowed before the child who could not yet speak, honoring the awakening that would one day come. Perhaps you, too, have felt sorrow, because you may not see the end of something good. But even when we cannot see everything grow, the heart that recognizes and blesses a small light is never wasted. The light you quietly honor today may one day guide someone else's path. Young Siddhartha's first meditation. Buddha story. According to the tradition, when Prince Siddhartha was still a child, he once went to a plowing festival. While people gathered to pray for a good harvest, The young prince quietly sat alone beneath the shade of a tree. There, he watched the soil being opened by the plow, and he saw the small living beings that appeared from the earth. The field outside Kapilavastu was filled with the joy of the festival. White oxen walked forward with decorated yokes, and people moved busily with hope for the coming harvest. But young Siddhartha noticed the tiny creatures, moving in the broken soil. Birds came down toward the newly exposed life, while the small beings struggled to find a place to hide. What looked like the beginning of abundance for people could also be a moment of fear for smaller lives. That sight left a quiet question in the young prince's heart. Siddhartha went to the shade of a tree and sat down, while the wind moved softly through the leaves, and the sounds of the festival faded into the distance. He remembered the happy faces of the people, and he also remembered the eyes of the oxen carrying the heavy yoke. The world did not have only one face. There was joy, but there was also labor. There was comfort, but sometimes another being's pain was hidden beneath it. According to the tradition, a deep stillness came to the young prince's heart at that moment. It was not the joy of gaining something. It was a clear and gentle peace that came when he was not holding on to anything. Later, when Siddhartha's body became weak from extreme austerity, it is said that he remembered this quiet peace beneath the rose apple tree. That memory helped him see that the path was not found in harming the body, and not found in chasing pleasure. A calm and clear heart could become the beginning of the way. Perhaps you, too, have paused before something that others simply passed by. You may have felt the pain of a small life, or the quiet burden behind someone's ordinary day. You do not have to call that heart too sensitive. A heart that feels deeply can be tired, but it can also lead us toward a softer and more truthful path. Siddhartha's growth and the palace walls. Buddha story. According to the tradition, as Prince Siddhartha was growing up, his father tried to keep him far away from the sorrows of the world. After hearing Asita's prophecy, the king feared that the boy might one day leave the palace and become a seeker of truth. So he arranged a life of comfort and beauty, hoping Siddhartha would never see aging, sickness, or death. Inside the palace, Siddhartha grew up surrounded by fine clothes, gentle music, flowers, gardens, and every kind of care. People tried to hide painful things from him, and they were careful not to let him see tired faces, sickness, or grief. The king's heart was not cold. It was the heart of a father who loved his son, and did not want to lose him. But comfort does not always put the deepest questions to sleep. Siddhartha saw flowers bloom and later fade. He noticed that even people who smiled could turn away and quietly sigh. The palace tried to hide sorrow, but the small signs of change could not be hidden forever. The king prepared more beauty, more music, and more pleasure, hoping to keep Siddhartha's heart inside the safe walls of the palace. But the heart cannot be tied down like an object. Just as high walls cannot stop every wind, the palace could not completely silence the quiet questions growing inside the young prince. This story gently reminds us that love can sometimes build high walls. We may try to protect someone from pain, or even hide hard truths from ourselves, because we do not want the heart to be hurt. That love is not a bad thing. But sometimes true love is not hiding every sorrow. Sometimes it is staying close while the truth is slowly faced. Even behind walls built with love, the heart continues to grow. And beyond those walls, life is already opening its quiet path. Yasodhara and Siddhartha's marriage. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Prince Siddhartha grew into a young man, he married Yasodhara and began family life inside the palace. King Suddhodana remembered the prophecy of the sage Asita, and he hoped that marriage and palace comfort would keep Siddhartha close to worldly life. But even with beauty, music, and a loving person beside him, the deep question in Siddhartha's heart did not disappear. The palace of Kapilavastu was filled with flowers, incense, and gentle music on the day of their marriage. People blessed the young couple and hoped their life would be peaceful. Yasodhara was not simply someone beside Siddhartha. She was the one who saw his quiet eyes closely, and she noticed the silence that stayed in him, even when others were smiling. Siddhartha and Yasodhara walked together in the gardens, and sometimes they sat near the lotus pond without many words. One evening, Siddhartha watched flower petals falling in the wind. For a long time, Yasodhara asked softly, "Prince, what are you thinking about?" Siddhartha answered, "I was thinking that even beautiful things do not stay for long." His words were sad, but they were not cold. They were not the words of someone who hated life. They were the words of someone who was beginning to look more deeply at life. Yasodhara did not try to make his heart lighter by force. She simply stayed beside him and shared the quiet that remained. The peace of the palace was not evil. Yasodhara's love was not a shadow blocking Siddhartha's path, but comfort and love could not Erase the question of aging, sickness, and parting. Siddhartha did not hate what he had. He was slowly seeing that what he had could not free all beings from suffering. This is how the story of Siddhartha and Yasodhara's marriage quietly comes to a close. Perhaps you, too, have looked fine on the outside, while a deep question remained in your heart. You do not have to push that question away as an ungrateful thought. Sometimes a deep question comes not because we hate our life, but because we want to love life more truthfully. May the quiet question within you one day lead to a wider and gentler peace. The 4 Sights Buddha Story Shorts. According to the tradition, Prince Siddhartha once left the palace and saw 4 sights: an old person, a sick person, a dead person, and a peaceful renunciant. These 4 sights left a deep question in his heart. Inside the palace of Kapilavastu, Siddhartha lived with every comfort. There was fine food, soft clothing, music, flowers, and laughter around him. But one day, he wondered what life was like beyond the palace walls. So he went outside the city gate with his charioteer, Channa. On the road, Siddhartha saw an old man. His back was bent, his hair was white, and he leaned on a staff as he walked. Siddhartha asked, "Channa, why is that man's body bent like that?" Channa answered, "Prince, that man is old. All who are born cannot avoid aging." A few days later, Siddhartha saw a sick man. His body trembled, his face was pale, and the people beside him looked worried. Channa said, "Anyone with a body can become sick." The 3rd time, Siddhartha saw a dead person. People were crying as they carried the body with flowers and cloth. Channa spoke quietly, "All who are born cannot avoid death." Siddhartha's heart was deeply shaken. Youth, health, and the people we love cannot be held forever. Then one day, Siddhartha saw a calm renunciant. He owned very little, but his face was strangely peaceful. Channa said, "He is one who seeks the way beyond suffering." That day, a small flame was lit in Siddhartha's heart. Aging, sickness, and death were real. But collapsing before them was not the only path. There were also those who looked at life clearly and searched for freedom. Perhaps you, too, have stood before aging, sickness, or parting. You do not have to pretend it does not hurt. You do not have to blame yourself for being afraid. Only those who have seen the heavy side of life begin to search for a deeper peace. The birth of Rahula and Siddhartha's shaken heart Buddha story. According to the tradition, near the time when Prince Siddhartha was moving closer to leaving the palace, Yasodhara gave birth to a son. The palace was filled with joy, and King Suddhodana was deeply happy that an heir had been born. But in the middle of that joy, Siddhartha's heart stood before an even deeper question. He had already seen an old man, a sick person, a dead body, and a calm renunciant walking on the road. After seeing these 4 sights, one question stayed in his heart. Why must one who is born grow old? Why must the body become sick? Why must those who meet one day separate? Then the news came. A son had been born. The small cry of the child filled the palace with joy, and many people may have thought Siddhartha would now stay. But Siddhartha's heart trembled even more deeply. According to the tradition, he quietly said words with this meaning. A bond has been born. At first, these words may sound cold, but they do not mean that Siddhartha did not love his son. He was shaken because his love had become deeper. When we love someone, their smile becomes our joy, and their pain becomes our pain. As Siddhartha thought of newborn Rahula, he saw the beauty of life more clearly, but he also saw that even this beloved child could not escape aging, sickness, separation, and death. He may have asked himself quietly, what is the greatest gift I can give my child? Is it a kingdom, or is it a path beyond suffering? Rahula's birth seemed like the final bond, holding Siddhartha to palace life. But later, Rahula would become known as the son of the Buddha, and a disciple on the path. So this story is not only about attachment, it is also about how love can become wider compassion. This is how the story of Rahula's birth quietly comes to a close. May the trembling places in your heart slowly become a doorway to wisdom, compassion, and peace. Siddhartha's Great Departure Buddha Story. According to the tradition, after Prince Siddhartha saw aging, sickness, death, and a peaceful renunciant, he felt that palace comfort alone could not answer the deep question in his heart. Though he had his wife, Yasodhara, and his newborn son, Rahula, he wished to find a way beyond the suffering shared by all living beings. Deep at night in Kapilavastu, the palace lamps flickered softly. The music had stopped, the flowers were quiet, and Prince Siddhartha sat awake for a long time. In his heart, the 4 sights remained: the bent back of an old man, the pale face of a sick man, the still body of a dead man, and the calm face of a renunciant who owned almost nothing. Siddhartha thought quietly, I cannot avoid aging, I cannot avoid sickness, I cannot avoid death. Then is holding on to comfort truly the answer? That night, it is said that Siddhartha came near the room where Yasodhara and little Rahula were resting. If he reached out, he could have touched his child's face one more time, but he stopped. He did not turn away because he lacked love. He stood there with a painful heart, because he wished to learn a greater love. Then Siddhartha called his charioteer, Channa. Channa, I must go and search for the answer. I want to know whether there is a path beyond aging, sickness, and death. According to the tradition, he rode out into the deep night on his horse, Kanthaka. The palace lights slowly faded behind him. Before him, an unknown road opened. Siddhartha was not free from fear. But beneath the fear, there was a quiet resolve. He was not leaving because he hated what he had. He was leaving because his heart longed for something more true. Perhaps you, too, have felt your heart tremble. Even in a comfortable place. You do not have to push that feeling away as foolish. Sometimes the heart moves not because it rejects what it has, but because it is searching for a deeper truth. Letting go of one old fear can also be a small going forth. Channa and Kanthaka's farewell. Buddha story. According to the tradition, when Prince Siddhartha left the palace, in the deep night, his charioteer Channa and his beloved horse Kanthaka went with him. The gates of sleeping Kapilavastu opened quietly, and the three of them moved into the darkness, leaving the life of the palace behind. Siddhartha was not leaving because he hated anyone. The hope of King Suddhodana, the quiet love of Yasodhara, and the small breath of newborn Rahula were all still in his heart. But after seeing an old man, a sick person, a dead body, and a calm renunciant, he could no longer look at palace life in the same way. Why must one who is born grow old? Why must the body become sick? Why must those who meet one day separate? These questions followed him through the night, becoming clearer as the palace grew farther away. At last, they reached a lonely place, where the life of a prince and the life of a seeker began to separate. Siddhartha took off his jewels and royal clothing, then told Channa to return to the palace with them. Channa's heart may have felt as if it were breaking, because he had to leave his prince alone on an unknown road. Kanthaka also stood quietly, as if he understood the sadness of the farewell. A horse cannot speak with words, but the heart of a faithful companion can sometimes be felt in silence. On that night, Kanthaka seemed like the final companion, carrying Siddhartha's former life. After Channa and Kanthaka returned, Siddhartha stood alone. The palace, the royal name, and the familiar protection were now behind him. Before him was the path of seeking, with no comfort, no praise, and no clear promise. This is how the story of Channa and Kanthaka's farewell quietly comes to a close. Leaving is not always born from a cold heart. Sometimes, leaving is a quiet decision, made for the sake of a deeper love. May the trembling in your own heart slowly guide you toward a path that is honest, gentle, and true.
The day Siddhartha cut his hair and beard. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Prince Siddhartha sent Channa and Kanthaka back to the palace, he remained alone on the road and cut his hair and beard. His jewels and royal things had already been placed in Channa's hands. But one last sign of the prince still remained with him. It was his carefully kept hair and beard, and the quiet appearance of a man who had lived for many years. As the heir of Kapilavastu, he was now alone on an unfamiliar road, without the protection of the palace, without the voices that called him prince, and without the familiar eyes that had always known him by his royal name. Why must one who is born grow old? Why must the body become sick? Why must those who meet one day separate? These questions had not disappeared inside the palace, and they became even clearer after he left everything familiar behind. According to the tradition, Siddhartha cut his hair and beard. As the blade passed and the hair fell, he may have been letting go of the years in which he had been known as a prince. As his face changed, the life of the royal heir of Kapilavastu moved farther away. This was not an act of hatred toward his past. It was not a rejection of the people he loved. It was a quiet decision to stand before truth in a simpler form, without depending on name, beauty, rank, or appearance. This is how the story of the day Siddhartha cut his hair and beard quietly comes to a close. Letting go is not always a collapse. Sometimes, it is the quiet removal of a shell we have worn for too long, so we may stand closer to what is true. May we also learn to look beyond our names and roles, and meet the deeper heart within us with gentleness and peace.
Alara Kalama and the Path of Deep Meditation. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Siddhartha cut his hair and beard, and laid down the last outer signs of royal life, he began to walk more fully on the path of seeking truth. He went on to meet teachers and ascetics, and among them was Alara Kalama, a respected master of deep meditation. Siddhartha learned from him with great seriousness. He trained his mind, entered deep concentration, and came to know a quiet stillness far beyond ordinary rest. The noise of the world became distant. The movements of thought became calm. For a time, this deep peace may have felt very close to the answer he was seeking. The tradition says that Alara Kalama saw Siddhartha's depth, and recognized that he had reached the same high meditative state. In some tellings, the teacher even invited Siddhartha to stay and guide others with him. Many people may have stopped there. Many may have thought, this is enough. But Siddhartha's heart did not stop. He saw that even this beautiful stillness was not the complete end of suffering. When the meditative state passed, aging still remained. Sickness still remained. Death still remained. The roots of suffering had not yet been fully understood. So Siddhartha honored what he had learned, but he continued on. This was not rejection. It was honesty. This is how the story of Siddhartha's learning with Alara Kalama quietly comes to a close. Sometimes, even after reaching a high and peaceful place, the heart still asks whether there is a deeper truth waiting. May we also learn to honor what is good, while still having the courage to keep walking toward wisdom, compassion, and peace. Uddaka Ramapada and the question that still remained. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Siddhartha learned deep meditation from Alara Kalama, he still felt that the complete end of suffering had not been found. He honored what he had learned, but he knew that the peace he had reached was not the final answer. So he continued his journey, and came to another teacher, Uddaka Ramapada. This teacher was known for an even more subtle and refined meditative path. Siddhartha learned with great seriousness. He trained the mind further, and reached a very high state of meditation, where ordinary thought became faint and the world seemed far away. For many seekers, this would have been enough. A rare attainment, a respected teacher, a deep and beautiful peace. But Siddhartha's heart did not stop there. He saw that even this high state was still a state. It could be entered, and it could be left. While it lasted, the mind was peaceful. But aging still remained. Sickness still remained. Death still remained. The root of suffering had not yet been fully understood. So Siddhartha did not stay. He did not reject the teaching with anger. He simply saw its greatness and its limit. This is how the story of Siddhartha's learning with Uddaka Ramapada quietly comes to a close. Sometimes, even after reaching a high place, one quiet question still remains. May we also learn to honor every true lesson, while having the courage to keep walking, when the heart knows there is still farther to go. The 5 Ascetics. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Siddhartha learned from Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramapada, he still had not found the complete end of suffering. He had experienced deep meditation and very subtle states of stillness. But he saw honestly that even those high states were not the final answer. So Siddhartha continued on. This time, he did not simply follow another teacher's path. He began to test a stricter way with his own body and mind. If palace pleasure could not bring freedom, and if deep meditation was still not the final end, perhaps severe discipline could lead him closer to truth. Around this time, 5 ascetics came to practice beside him. The tradition says they saw Siddhartha's deep determination, and chose to walk the path with him. He had left royal life behind. He had not stayed even after reaching high meditative states. To them, he may have seemed like someone who would not stop until he found the deepest answer. Together, they entered a hard life of silence, hunger, endurance, and discipline. They ate little, rested little, and turned away from comfort. To others, this may have looked like suffering, but to them, it was a serious search for freedom from suffering. But one quiet question still remained. Could the body be forced into truth? Could suffering truly be ended by creating more suffering? This is how the story of Siddhartha meeting the 5 ascetics quietly comes to a close. Sometimes we walk a difficult road, because the question in the heart will not let us stay still. May our deepest questions lead us not only to effort, but also to wisdom, compassion, and peace. 6 years of austerity. Buddha story. According to the tradition, Siddhartha practiced severe austerity for many years. With the 5 ascetics, he ate very little, endured great hardship, and tried to control the needs of the body with deep determination. Palace pleasure had not given him the answer. Deep meditation had not shown him the complete end of suffering. So this time, Siddhartha tried to push his body and mind to their limits. His body became thin and weak. His strength slowly faded. The man who had once lived as a prince now looked like a silent ascetic in the forest, carrying one deep question in his heart. The 5 ascetics watched him closely. They may have believed that Siddhartha would surely reach awakening through this severe practice. But as the years passed, another question began to rise within him. Can the heart become free by hurting the body? Can suffering truly end by adding more suffering? Siddhartha had not practiced lightly. He had tested this path deeply. Because of that, he could also see its limit. Too much comfort was not the way. But too much pain was not the way either. This is how the story of Siddhartha's 6 years of austerity quietly comes to a close. It reminds us that not every hard path is a wise path. Sometimes, true peace does not begin by breaking ourselves. It begins when we learn to see our suffering with honesty, wisdom, and compassion. The Fallen Ascetic and the Passing Song. Buddha story. According to the tradition and later Buddhist stories, after 6 long years of severe austerity, Siddhartha's body had become extremely weak. He had eaten very little. He had endured hunger, pain, and silence. He had pushed himself to the edge of life, hoping to find the end of suffering. But the more he hurt the body, the clearer one question became. Can suffering truly end by adding more suffering? One day, while Siddhartha was weak and exhausted, a simple song reached him. The song spoke of a string instrument. If the string is too loose, it cannot make a clear sound. If the string is too tight, it will break. Only when the string is tuned correctly can it make a beautiful sound. Those simple words touched Siddhartha's heart. Too much pleasure was not the way. But too much pain was not the way either. A life drowned in comfort cannot easily see the truth. But a life destroyed by self-torment cannot hold clear wisdom. This was not yet the moment of full awakening. But it was the beginning of a new understanding. The path to freedom had to be balanced, steady, and wise. This is how the story of the fallen ascetic and the passing song quietly comes to a close. May we notice when the string of our heart is too tight. And may we walk a path that leads not to self-destruction, but to wisdom, compassion, and peace. Sujata's offering of milk rice. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after 6 long years of severe austerity, Siddhartha's body had become extremely weak. He had eaten very little. He had endured hunger, pain, and silence. He had pushed himself almost to the edge of death, in his search for truth. But slowly, he began to see something clearly. Too much pleasure was not the way. But too much pain was not the way either. A body that is dying cannot easily hold clear wisdom. Around this time, a woman named Sujata offered him a bowl of milk rice. It was not a royal feast. It was not a return to luxury. It was a simple bowl of warm nourishment, given with care. Siddhartha accepted the offering. This did not mean he had abandoned the path. It meant he was letting go of an extreme. He was beginning to understand that the body did not have to be hated for the heart to become free. The 5 ascetics may have thought he had become weak, but Siddhartha had not lost the way. He was beginning to see it more clearly. Sujata's bowl of milk rice became a quiet turning point. It gave strength to a tired body, and helped open the path toward the middle way. Sometimes, what we need is not more pain, more pressure, or more punishment. Sometimes, what we need is one gentle moment of care that helps us rise again. May we learn when to endure and when to receive. And may we walk a path of balance, compassion, and peace. The recovery by the Niranjana River. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after receiving Sujata's offering of milk rice, Siddhartha slowly began to regain his strength by the Niranjana River. 6 years of severe austerity had made his body extremely weak. But through that long and difficult path, he had come to see something clearly. Too much pleasure was not the way. And self-torment was not the way either. One warm bowl of milk rice gave life back to a body that was almost like a fading lamp. His breathing slowly became steadier, and the body that had been near collapse began to find its strength again. But the deeper change was happening within his heart. He was beginning to understand that suffering cannot truly end by adding more suffering. Siddhartha went toward the Niranjana River. The water flowed quietly beside the forest, and the silence around him became calm and deep. There, by the river, he washed his body and gathered his mind. The heaviness of the past began to settle, and the old belief that truth must be found only through pain began to loosen. The river did not blame the past. It simply flowed. In that quiet flow, Siddhartha looked back on the roads he had walked. The palace had shown him the limit of comfort. His teachers had shown him the depth of meditation. The years of austerity had shown him the limit of self-torment. Now he was ready to move beyond the extremes. With a steadier body and a clearer heart, Siddhartha began to walk toward the Bodhi tree. This was not just a walk to a tree. It was the next step toward the deepest moment of his journey. This story reminds us that sometimes, coming closer to truth does not mean pushing harder. Sometimes, the first step is to regain the strength to walk again. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, Siddhartha sits beneath the Bodhi tree and makes his silent vow until awakening is reached. He will not rise from that place. I will share that quiet night of resolve in the next story. The vow beneath the Bodhi tree. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after recovering by the Niranjana River, Siddhartha came to the Bodhi tree and prepared to sit in deep silence. He had passed through the comfort of the palace, the teachings of great masters, and 6 long years of severe austerity. None of those paths had been meaningless, but none of them had shown him the complete end of suffering. Now Siddhartha was no longer searching outside himself for the final answer. He had seen that too much pleasure was not the way, and that self-torment was not the way either. Beneath the Bodhi tree, he gathered all the questions of his life. into one quiet place. He sat with his body upright and his heart steady. This was not a royal throne, and it was not a place for display. It was simply a seat beneath a tree, where one seeker chose to face the deepest truth without turning away. There, Siddhartha made his silent vow. Until awakening was reached, he would not rise from that place. This was not the harsh will of self-punishment. It was a calm and clear resolve. He was no longer trying to break the body, and he was no longer leaning on comfort. He was choosing to remain still, to look deeply, and to meet the truth directly. The night was quiet, but it carried the weight of his whole journey. The palace, the teachers, the forest, the austerities, Sujata's offering, and the river, all gathered into this one moment beneath the Bodhi tree. This story reminds us that sometimes the deepest change begins, not by running somewhere else, but by becoming still enough to face what is already in the heart. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, Mara appears at the final threshold before awakening. Fear, desire, and doubt try one last time to shake Siddhartha's heart. I will share that moment of temptation and stillness. In the next story, Mara's temptation. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, and made his vow not to rise until awakening was reached, Mara came to tempt him. Mara can be understood as a powerful being in the story, but also as the fear, desire, and doubt that rise within the heart. Before deep clarity appears, the night beneath the Bodhi tree was quiet. Siddhartha sat with his body upright, and his heart gathered in one place. He was no longer searching outside himself for the final answer. The palace, the teachers, and the years of severe austerity were all behind him. Now he had to face the deepest movements of his own mind. First came fear. It whispered that this path might be wrong, that he might fail, and that he was alone beneath the dark sky. But Siddhartha did not follow fear. He did not fight it with anger, and he did not run away from it. He simply saw it arise and pass. Then came desire. It called him back toward comfort, beauty, praise, and an easier road. But Siddhartha had already seen the limit of pleasure. He knew that comfort could hide suffering for a while, but it could not end suffering at its root. Last came doubt. It asked whether he was truly able to walk this path, whether everything he had done was meaningless, and whether he had the right to seek awakening. But Siddhartha did not collapse under doubt. He remembered the path he had walked, and he remained still. Mara's temptation was not only a battle outside him, it was the final shaking of the heart before awakening. Fear, desire, and doubt rose like shadows, but Siddhartha watched them without losing his way. This story reminds us that the strongest disturbances often rise within our own hearts. When fear, desire, and doubt appear, we do not always need to obey them or fight them. Sometimes, the deepest strength is to see them clearly and remain on the path. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, Siddhartha calls the earth as his witness. Before the final shaking, he quietly shows that the path he has walked is real. I will share the story of that moment of witness and stillness. In the next story, calling the earth as witness. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Mara could not shake Siddhartha with fear, desire, and doubt, one final question remained. Mara asked who could prove that Siddhartha had the right to sit beneath the Bodhi tree and seek awakening. This was not only a question from outside, it was also the kind of doubt that can rise deep within the heart. Was the path he had walked truly meaningful? Were all the years of searching, struggle, and practice real? Siddhartha did not answer with loud words. He did not argue with Mara, and he did not try to show his greatness. He simply remembered the path he had walked. He remembered leaving the palace. He remembered learning from his teachers. He remembered the long years of austerity, the weakness of his body, Sujata's offering of milk rice, the Niranjana river, and the vow beneath the Bodhi tree. None of those moments had been perfect, but none of them had been meaningless. Every step had brought him to this night. According to the tradition, Siddhartha then lowered his right hand and touched the earth. He did not call a crowd to defend him. He did not look for praise. He called the earth itself as his witness. The earth had received every step he had taken. It had held his joy, his sorrow, his searching, his pain, and his return to strength. In that quiet gesture, Siddhartha showed that the path he had walked was real. This story reminds us that we do not always need to prove our lives with loud words. Sometimes, the road we have walked is already our witness. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, Siddhartha awakens beneath the Bodhi tree. After the long darkness, his heart finally becomes bright. I will share the story of that night of awakening in the next story. Awakening beneath the Bodhi tree. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Mara's final disturbance lost its power, Siddhartha remained beneath the Bodhi tree in deep stillness, and finally reached awakening. He had passed through the comfort of the palace, the teachings of great masters, 6 years of severe austerity, Sujata's offering of milk rice, recovery by the Niranjana river, and the vow beneath the Bodhi tree. None of those steps had been meaningless. They had all brought him to this quiet night. The forest was still dark, but the darkness no longer felt like fear. Siddhartha sat with a steady breath and a calm heart. He did not try to hold on to anything, and he did not try to push anything away. He simply remained awake, seeing every movement of the mind, as it appeared and passed. According to the tradition, his knowing became deeper during that night. He saw the long flow of life, the movement of birth and death, and the way beings continue through causes, conditions, actions, and intentions. Then he looked even deeper. Why does suffering arise? Why does it continue? And how can it come to an end? In that deep stillness, Siddhartha saw the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the ending of suffering, and the path that leads beyond suffering. The light of the Four Noble Truths opened in his heart. At dawn, according to the tradition, Siddhartha reached complete awakening and became the Buddha, the awakened one. This moment was not like a loud victory. It was more like the first light of dawn, spreading gently after a long night. His heart had become clear, peaceful, and filled with compassion for all beings. This story reminds us that darkness does not mean there is no dawn. A confused heart can become clear, a tired heart can become steady, and a suffering heart can slowly find the way toward peace. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about the silence after awakening. After becoming awakened, the Buddha did not immediately speak to the world. He quietly wondered whether such a deep truth could truly be shared and understood. I will share the story of that silent hesitation in the next story. The silence after awakening. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after the Buddha reached complete awakening beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not immediately go out into the world to teach. After the long night of darkness, his heart had become bright. He had seen the cause of suffering, the ending of suffering, and the path that leads beyond suffering. But the truth he had seen was very deep, subtle, peaceful, and hard to understand. The people of the world were used to desire. They were used to holding on. They were used to seeking pleasure, fearing loss, and believing that changing things could somehow be kept forever. So the Buddha remained in silence. He quietly wondered whether such a deep truth could truly be understood by people still caught in craving, attachment, fear, and confusion. Awakening did not become a loud cry. It did not become a proud announcement. Instead, awakening flowed into a deeper silence. The Buddha looked again at the Dharma he had realized. All things arise because of causes and conditions. When those causes and conditions fade, those things also fade. Suffering continues through ignorance, craving, and clinging. When that movement is clearly seen, the heart can begin to let go. But this path goes against the stream of the world. The world says, hold on. The Dharma says, look clearly. The world says, become more. The Dharma says, let the heart be free. The Buddha's silence was not cold. It was not the silence of someone who did not care. It was the silence of deep compassion. He was not hiding the truth. He was carefully wondering how such a profound truth could be shared with beings whose hearts were covered by dust. This story reminds us that truth and compassion must go together. When we know something, we do not always need to speak right away. Sometimes silence is patience. Sometimes silence is kindness. Sometimes silence is the space where the right words are slowly born. May we speak when speech is kind. May we remain quiet when silence is wiser. And may our words, when they finally come, carry not pride, but compassion. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about Brahma Sahampati's request. The Buddha was quietly considering whether to remain silent, but Brahma Sahampati came and asked him to teach the Dharma for the sake of the world. I will share the story of that compassionate request. In the next story, Brahma Sahampati's request. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after the Buddha reached complete awakening beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not immediately go out into the world to teach. The truth he had realized was deep, peaceful, subtle, and difficult to understand, and it went against the ordinary stream of the world, where people were used to desire, fear, and attachment. Because of this, the Buddha quietly remained in silence, wondering whether people could truly understand such a profound Dharma. His silence was not cold. It was not the silence of someone who wished to keep the truth for himself. It was the silence of deep compassion, carefully considering how such a precious teaching could reach hearts that were still covered by the dust of craving and confusion. According to the tradition, Brahma Sahampati understood the Buddha's thoughts. He saw that if the awakened one remained silent, the world would lose a great blessing. He also saw that not every heart was completely closed. There were beings with only a little dust in their eyes. There were people who were suffering, searching, and ready to hear the Dharma, if it was spoken with wisdom and compassion. So Brahma Sahampati respectfully approached the Buddha and asked him to teach for the sake of the world. The Buddha listened to this request and looked again upon all living beings. According to the tradition, he saw them like lotus flowers growing in a pond. Some were still buried deep in the mud. Some were slowly rising through the water. Some were already close to the surface, waiting only for the light. The Buddha realized that although not everyone would understand, there were many whose hearts could open. So he chose not to remain in silence. The compassion born from awakening began to turn toward the world. This story reminds us that truth is not meant to be hidden forever. When the time is right, and when compassion leads the way, even one gentle word can become a light for someone walking through darkness. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about the first sermon, the turning of the wheel of Dharma. The Buddha will teach the middle way beyond the two extremes, and the Four Noble Truths will be spoken for the first time. I will share that beautiful beginning of the Dharma in the next story. The first sermon, Turning the Wheel of Dharma. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Brahma Sahampati asked the Buddha to teach the Dharma, the Buddha no longer remained only in silence. He saw that there were beings with only a little dust in their eyes, beings who were suffering, searching, and ready to hear the path. So the Buddha walked toward Deer Park at Sarnath, where the 5 ascetics were staying. These 5 ascetics had once practiced with him during the years of severe austerity. When Siddhartha accepted nourishment and left the path of extreme self-denial, they believed he had given up the holy life. But when they saw the Buddha coming toward them, something felt different. His face was calm, his steps were steady, his presence carried a peace they had never seen before. In that quiet place at Deer Park, the Buddha gave his first teaching, and the wheel of Dharma began to turn. He taught that 2 extremes should be left behind. One extreme is being lost in sense pleasure. The other extreme is tormenting the body and mind through harsh self-denial. The Buddha had known both paths. He had lived in comfort, and he had also practiced severe austerity. Through his own life, he saw that neither extreme led to true awakening. Between these 2 extremes, he taught the middle way. The middle way is not weakness or compromise. It is a path of wisdom, balance, and clear seeing. It does not follow craving, and it does not worship pain. Then the Buddha taught the 4 Noble Truths. There is suffering. Suffering has a cause. Suffering can come to an end. And there is a path that leads to the ending of suffering. This was the beginning of the Dharma being shared with the world. The silence beneath the Bodhi tree became a teaching in Deer Park. One awakened heart began to show a path for many. This story reminds us that we also fall into extremes. Sometimes we chase comfort because we fear pain. Sometimes we push ourselves too harshly because we think suffering makes us stronger. The middle way gently teaches us to stop harming ourselves and to stop being ruled by desire. It invites us to see suffering clearly, understand its cause, and walk slowly toward peace. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about Khandana's understanding. After listening to the Buddha's first sermon, the eye of Dharma opens in the heart of the first disciple. I will share that quiet moment of understanding in the next story. Khandana has understood. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after the Buddha gave his first sermon in Deer Park, the eye of Dharma opened for the first time in the heart of one of the 5 ascetics. His name was Khandana. The Buddha had taught the middle way beyond the 2 extremes, and he had explained suffering, the cause of suffering, the ending of suffering, and the path that leads to the ending of suffering. At first, the 5 ascetics were not fully open. They had once believed that harsh self-denial was the highest path. But the Buddha did not scold them or argue with them. He calmly spoke from what he had seen through his own life. Seekers, do not follow the 2 extremes. The path of being lost in sense pleasure does not lead to true awakening. The path of tormenting oneself does not lead to true awakening. The Tathagata has seen the middle way beyond these 2 extremes. The words settled quietly into Deer Park. Then the Buddha spoke again. There is suffering. There is a cause of suffering. There is an ending of suffering. And there is a path that leads to the ending of suffering. Khandana listened. The teaching did not remain outside him as words. It began to enter his own life. He saw why suffering arises. He saw what the heart clings to. He saw why trying to hold changing things as permanent brings pain. According to the meaning preserved in the tradition, a deep realization opened in his heart. Whatever arises is subject to passing away. In that moment, Khandana did not only understand with his thoughts. He began to see with the eye of Dharma. The Buddha saw that the Dharma had taken root in Khandana's heart. And with quiet joy, the Buddha said, Khandana has understood. Truly, Khandana has understood. This was the first time the Buddha's teaching opened in the heart of another person. The Dharma was no longer only spoken. It had been received. It had become a living path. This story reminds us that understanding does not always come loudly. Sometimes a truth we have heard many times suddenly becomes clear in the heart. May we also listen quietly, see where we cling, and slowly open our hearts to peace. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about the 5 monks taking refuge. The ascetics who once practiced with the Buddha will receive his teaching, and the first Sangha will begin to form. The 5 monks take refuge. Buddha story. According to the tradition, after Kandana's eye of Dharma opened in Deer Park, the other ascetics also began to receive the Buddha's teaching. These 5 men had once practiced severe austerity with the Buddha. They had believed that tormenting the body was the way to liberation. When Siddhartha accepted nourishment from Sujata and left the path of extreme self-denial, they thought he had abandoned the holy life. They turned away from him. But now, in Deer Park, they were sitting before the awakened one. The one they had misunderstood was not weak. He had gone beyond both indulgence and self-torment. The Buddha taught them with compassion. Seekers, do not hate the path you have already walked. But do not be bound by it again. Suffering is to be understood. The cause of suffering is to be abandoned. The ending of suffering is to be realized. And the path to that ending is to be cultivated. The 5 ascetics began to see that practice was not about punishing the body. It was not about pride in pain. It was about understanding suffering and becoming free from its causes. One by one, their hearts opened. They began to trust the Buddha. They began to trust the Dharma. They wished to follow the path and live as monks. According to the tradition, the Buddha received them and said, "Come, monks. The Dharma is well taught. Live the holy life for the ending of suffering." With those words, they were no longer only 5 ascetics. They became the first monks. They became the beginning of the Sangha. The Sangha did not begin with a great building, wealth, or public ceremony. It began in a quiet forest, with 1 awakened teacher and 5 seekers, willing to let go of their old path. This story reminds us that a wrong turn does not have to be the end. If the heart can open, the path can begin again. If we can listen, we can learn. If we can release what we held too tightly, we can receive something deeper. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear how the Buddha's teaching begins to flow toward more people. After the first Sangha is formed, the Dharma slowly starts to reach the hearts of the wider world. The teaching of non-self. According to the tradition, after the 5 monks received the Buddha's teaching, and the first Sangha began, the Buddha gave them another deep teaching, the idea of I, me, and mine. The Buddha said, "Monks, the body is not self. If the body were truly self, it would not lead to affliction." One could say of the body, "Let it be this way, let it not be that way." But the body changes, grows sick, grows old, and breaks down. The Buddha was not teaching hatred of the body. He was teaching freedom from clinging to the body as a fixed self. Then he taught that feeling is not self. Pleasant feeling does not remain. Painful feeling does not remain. Neutral feeling also changes. If we cling to feeling as self, the heart is carried away by every passing wave. The Buddha also taught that perception, mental formations, and consciousness are not self. Thoughts, memories, desires, fears, intentions, and the knowing mind all arise through conditions and pass through conditions. Then the Buddha asked the monks, "Monks, what do you think? Is what changes suffering or happiness?" The monks answered, "Suffering, blessed one." The Buddha asked, "Then is it fitting to regard what changes as this is mine, this I am, this is myself?" The monks answered, "No, blessed one." In this way, the 5 monks began to see more deeply. The teaching of non-self does not mean that life has no meaning. It does not mean we should hate ourselves. It means that body, feeling, thought, memory, and consciousness are changing processes, not a permanent self to cling to. When we stop holding passing things as me and mine, the heart becomes lighter. There is less to defend, less to prove, less to carry. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about Yasa's renunciation. A young man surrounded by luxury feels empty inside and begins to search for the true path. Yasa's renunciation. Buddha story. Today's story is about Yasa, a young man who lived in luxury but felt empty inside. Yasa was born into a very wealthy family in Varanasi. He had fine clothes, beautiful rooms, music, flowers, and every comfort around him. People may have thought he was truly happy, but deep in his heart, Yasa was not at peace. Even when music played around him, he felt lonely. Even when people smiled near him, his heart felt empty. One night, after a long evening of pleasure, Yasa woke up and looked around the room. The music had stopped. The lamps were fading. The people who had been singing and dancing were now sleeping in disorder. The beauty of the night had disappeared. At that moment, Yasa saw something clearly. The pleasures he had trusted could not last. What looked sweet for a moment soon became tired and empty. His heart became deeply troubled. He thought, "This is distress." He thought, "This is not peace." So Yasa left his home in the quiet night. He walked through the dark streets, not knowing where he would go. But he knew he could not return to the same life in the same way. Before dawn, he came near the deer park, where the Buddha was staying. The Buddha saw Yasa's suffering and spoke with compassion. "Yasa, here there is no distress. Yasa, here there is no oppression. Come, Yasa." These words touched Yasa's heart. He sat before the Buddha and listened. The Buddha spoke to him about generosity, moral living, and the danger of clinging to passing pleasures. Then the Buddha taught him the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path that leads to peace. As Yasa listened, his mind became clear. He understood that he had been searching for lasting peace in things that could not last. He saw that true freedom was not found in more pleasure, but in letting go. Yasa bowed before the Buddha and entered the path. His renunciation was not a sad escape from life. It was the beginning of wisdom. Sometimes, an empty heart is not the end. It may be the quiet doorway to a deeper path. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about Yasa's father taking refuge. He comes searching for his son, but meets the path of the heart through the Buddha's teaching. Yasa's father takes refuge. Buddha story. Today's story is about Yasa's father, who came searching for his son and found the path of the heart. After Yasa left his life of luxury, he met the Buddha at the deer park. He heard the Dharma and understood that passing pleasure could not give lasting peace. Then Yasa entered the path of the Buddha, but at home, his father was worried. His son had disappeared in the night. He did not know where Yasa had gone, so the father went out to search. He followed the traces of his son and came to the deer park. At first, he only wanted to find Yasa and bring him home. But the Buddha saw the worry in his heart. The Buddha did not blame a father's love. He gently showed him how love becomes suffering when it is mixed with fear and clinging. The Buddha spoke about generosity and a pure way of living. He spoke about the danger of depending on wealth, pleasure, family, and praise as if they could never change. Then he taught the deeper truth. What we love will change. What we possess will change. Even the people closest to us cannot be held forever by our wishes. As the father listened, his heart slowly became calm. He began to understand that Yasa was not truly lost. His son had found a path beyond suffering. The father saw that he had come to look for his son. But the Dharma had also found him. In the tradition, Yasa's father became the first lay follower to take refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma. He did not leave home as a monk, but his heart changed. He returned to the world with a new refuge inside. This story reminds us that love does not have to hold tightly. When love becomes clear, it can bless another person's path. Sometimes, the one we try to bring back is the one who quietly leads us forward. If this story remained quietly in your heart, please subscribe and like to join me. In the next story, we will hear about Yasa's mother and wife taking refuge. One person's empty heart becomes the beginning of a path for the whole family.